Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. How are you? I think that you are well and enjoying watching my videos at home. Today I have come back with a new educational video. So friends, are you ready to learn this? So let's start. Good morning students. Good morning sir. Today I am going to teach you an important lesson that is transitive and intransitive verbs. In this class I will explain about 1. Subject and verbs. 2. Transitive verbs. Ergative verbs. 3. Intransitive verbs. 4. Verbs of incomplete predication. Complements. B. Subject and object complements. 5. Object, direct and indirect. So students, are you ready to learn this? Yes sir. So let's start. To understand transitive and intransitive verbs properly, then we have to learn this part first. Subject and verbs. 1. Look at the following examples. A. William wrote an essay. B. This old man sells flowers. C. The terrible flood will destroy all the crop. A. Who plus wrote an essay. Predicate? Answer. William. William, therefore, is the subject of the verb wrote. B. Who plus sells flowers? Answer. This old man. Therefore, the subject of the verb sell is man. C. What plus will destroy all the crop? Predicate. Answer. The terrible flood. So, flood is the subject of the verb will destroy. If you look at sentences A, B, and C carefully, you will notice that in each of them the subject itself did, does or will do something. In A, the verb wrote tells us what William did. In B, the verb sells tells us what this old man does. In C, the verb will destroy tells us what the flood will do. So, the person or thing which did, does or will do something is the subject of the verb. In other words, it is the subject which acts. 2. Now, look at the same sentences written in a different way. D. The essay was written by William. E. Flowers are sold by this old man. F. All the crop will be destroyed by the terrible flood. Again, to find the subject, we ask, D. What plus was written by William? Answer. The essay. So, essay is the subject of the verb was written. E. What plus are sold by this old man? Answer. Flowers. Flowers, therefore, is the subject of the verb are sold. F. What plus will be destroyed by the flood? Answer. All the crop. So, crop is the subject of the verb will be destroyed. Can you tell the difference between sentences A, B, C, and sentences D, E, F? In D, the subject essay did not do anything. In E, the subject flowers does not do anything. In F, the subject crops will not do anything. These subjects do not act, something is done to them, or they are acted upon by somebody or something else. You must, therefore, remember that just as verbs may be used to tell us what some persons or things do, they may also be used to tell us what is done to some persons or things. 3. A verb may not refer to an action, it may simply tell us what person or thing is. G. The rose is red. H. London is a big city. I. George is very lazy. So students, here's the end of this part. It's time to learn next part. Okay sir. Transitive verbs. Transitive verbs are those verbs which need an object to complete their action. Examples: John won a silver medal. Won what? A silver medal. The police caught the thief. Caught whom? The thief. Let's understand with example. When the subject of a verb acts and the action affects another person or thing, that is, somebody or something different and separate from the subject, that person or thing is called the object of the verb. In other words, the action starts from the subject and ends with the object. J. Farmers till the soil. K. Jack kicked the football. L. Father will clean the table. In J. The farmer's action tilling affects the soil, the thing different and separate from the farmers themselves. We can also say that the action of tilling passes from the farmers to the soil. So, soil is the object of the verb till. Similarly in K, Jack's action of kicking affected something separate and different from Jack himself, football. So, football is the object of the verb kicked. In L, Father's action of cleaning will affect the thing that is separate and different from father himself, the table. So, table is the object of the verb will clean. A verb which has an object is known as a transitive verb. To find out whether a verb has an object, we ask the question what or whom after the verb. Farmers till what or whom? Answer, soil. Jack kicked what or whom? Answer, football. Father will clean what or whom? Answer, table. So, soil, football, table are objects of the verbs fill, kicked, will clean. Here are some more examples. M. Sushma ate an apple. Ate what or whom? Answer, apple. N. He drives a car. Drives what or whom? Answer, car. O. I shall sing a song. Shall sing what or whom? Answer, song. So, apple, car, song are objects of the verbs ate, drives, shall sing. It is very important to remember that, as in all the above examples, the object has to be somebody or something different from the subject itself. Secondly, as in the case of the subject, the object may have other words qualifying it, like the in, j, k, l, or and as in m, n, o. We usually use the word object to refer to the object word or object words, not to these qualifying words. It must be remembered, however, that the object may in many cases consist of words which cannot be separated from one another, that is, they act as a single unit. So students, have you understood this part properly? Let me write that you have understood it. Let's tell about transitive verbs with example. A verb that requires an object to complete its action is a transitive verb. Example, my sister gifted me a football. Very good. Ergative verbs. You know that in case of transitive verbs, the action directly or indirectly affects the object. But there are many transitive verbs which can be used in such a way that their action affects the subject itself. Examples, the child broke the vase. Transitive. The vase broke. Ergative action affects the vase. It's time to learn intransitive verbs. Intransitive verbs are those verbs which do not need any object to complete their action. Examples, the child sleeps all day. The birds are chirping. Often, the verb simply tells us something about the subject itself, what it does, what it is, or what it is like. The action described by the verb does not affect some other person or thing, it stops with the subject. Examples, P. The dog barked. Q. Birds fly. R. John will play. In P, the verb barked simply tells us something about the dog, the subject itself. It does not tell us how the subject's action affected some other person or thing. The verb barked, therefore, has no object. Similarly in Q, we are told something about the subject itself. The action of flying does not pass from birds to some other thing or person. The verb fly, therefore, has no object. In R, the verb will play does not affect any person or thing other than the subject itself. The action of play stops with John, the subject. So, the verb will play has no object. A verb, which does not have an object, is known as an intransitive verb. Now, look at these examples. The man looks ill. T. The journey will be difficult. U. Jave became a doctor. In each case, if we ask the question what after the verb, we seem to get an answer. The man looks what? Answer, ill. The journey will be what? Answer, difficult. Jave became what? Answer, a doctor. But, if we look at the answers carefully, we find that each of them tells us something about the subject itself and does not refer to somebody or something that is different and separate from the subject. So, ill, difficult, doctor are not really objects. As they help the verbs to complete what the verbs say about the subjects, they are called complements. All these verbs looks, will be, became are, therefore, intransitive. In order to find out whether a verb has an object or not, we have to do two things. First, we ask the question what or whom after the verb. If we do not get an answer, we can straight away say that the verb is intransitive. If we get an answer, we have to look closely at the answer to see whether I, it tells us something about the subject itself, or 2, it refers to somebody or something that is different and separate from the subject. If it tells us something about the subject itself, it is not an object. If it refers to somebody or something that is separate or different from the subject, it is an object. Note that when a verb tells us that something is being done to a person or thing, the verb cannot have an object, for the simple reason that the subject does not act. V. Our meals are cooked by mother. W. The child was bitten by a snake. X. The car will be driven by Kareem. In these sentences, the subjects are not doers, they do not do, have not done, or will not do anything. On the contrary, something is being done to them. If the subject does not act, its action cannot affect anybody or anything directly. So, the verb cannot have an object. Therefore, in sentences like V, W, and X, the verbs are cooked, was bitten, or will be driven cannot have an object. So students, here is the end of intransitive verb. Tell me about it with example. Intransitive verbs are self-sufficient and do not require an object to complete their action. Examples: the fire burned all night. Nice. You are very intelligent. Okay students, move to next part. Verbs of incomplete predication. Read these sentences. They are: Harris seems, the teacher looked. All of these sentences are incomplete. Now read the sentences again. They are happy, Harris seems tired, the teacher looked angry. The sentences are complete now. However, they have not taken any object. There are neither answers to what nor whom in relation to the verb. There are some intransitive verbs that do not take an object, but need other words to convey their meaning. These are intransitive verbs of incomplete predication. The word or words that are used to complete their meaning are called complements. Complements may also be used to describe an object of transitive verbs. Examples: the little girl seems lost. The complement lost describes the subject, girl. The High Court held the convict guilty. Guilty describes the object, the convict. Subject and object complements. Complements can be of two types: subject complements and object complements. We can also say subjective and objective complements. Okay sir, subject complements. Complements that tell us more about the subject of the verb are called subject complements. Examples: her mother is happy. George's grandfather was in the army. Geetha Chandran is a gifted dancer. You have seen so far that intransitive verbs do not require an object to convey their meaning. But there are many intransitive verbs that do need the help of other words to communicate their meaning. Look at the sentences given below. A. She looked confused. B. She is sleeping. B. They are very strong. None of the verbs in these sentences has an object. But the words that follow the verbs cannot be left out. They are necessary for the verbs to convey their meaning. The adjective confused tells us how she, the subject, looked. The adjective unwell tells us how I, the subject, feel. The adjective phrase very strong tells us how they, the subject, are. These words, which are not objects but are necessary for the verbs to convey their meaning, are called the complements of the verbs. In the examples given above, these complements tell us something about the subject. Hence they are referred to as the subjective complements of the verbs. Remember this, watch out. Not all intransitive verbs require a complement. Many of them are complete in themselves and need neither an object nor a complement. A. He sang. B. She is sleeping. C. I shouted. But we cannot use the following: he looks. I am feeling. She came. Object complements. Complements that tell us more about the objects of the verbs are known as object complements. The class teacher made Sushil the captain. They named the baby Sam. The council members elected Biden head boy. Just as intransitive verbs can have subjective complements, transitive verbs with can also have complements. These complements tell us something important about the object of the verb and are hence called objective complements. Look at these sentences. A. His brother called him a genius. B. I wished her good luck. Both the verbs in these examples are transitive and have objects. However, these objects are not enough for the verbs to convey their meaning. The verbs require the help of additional words, the objective complement. In the first sentence, the verb called takes him as the direct object. However, the words a genius are necessary for us to know what his brother called him. In the second sentence, the verb wish takes her as the direct object. But the words good luck tell us what I wished her. So students, now you will learn the today's class last part, that is, direct and indirect object. In some sentences, a verb can have two objects, a direct object and an indirect object. Look at this sentence. Robert threw Sam the ball. Here, the direct object answers the question what? What did Robert throw? The ball. The direct object receives the action of the verb and is directly affected it. The indirect object answers the question to whom. Robert threw the ball to whom? Sam. It also answers the question for whom. The indirect object receives the direct object. Example, Nadine told Manu a joke. Direct object, a joke. Indirect object, Manu. The indirect object comes before the direct object. Direct and indirect objects are normally placed in this manner. Subject plus verb plus indirect object plus direct object. Example, I bought my brother a basketball. Direct object, a basketball. Indirect object, my brother. You have learned about it as ready, but now you will learn how to from placement of direct and indirect objects. Placement of direct and indirect objects. However, the direct object can be placed before the indirect object if a preposition is used with the indirect object. In such cases, they take this structure. Subject plus verb plus direct object plus preposition plus indirect object. Examples, Samantha threw the ball to him. My grandfather narrated the story to me. The chef cooked delicious pasta for the guests. The orchard owner gave a basket of mangoes to my brother. Some verbs need objects to complete their meaning while others do not. However, it is possible to reserve this position by using a prevention with the indirect object. Look at the sentences. Examples, she gave her teacher a bouquet. She gave a bouquet to her teacher. Using the preposition to with the indirect object. Mother baked me a cake last Sunday. Mother baked a cake for me last Sunday. Using the preposition for with the indirect objects. Important note about the placement of direct and indirect objects. The use of the prepositions to and for does not work with all the verbs that take two objects. Given below are a few examples. A. The library fined me 50 rupees. The library fined me 50 rupees to me. Incorrect. The library fined 50 rupees for me. Incorrect. B. The referee allowed the player one more shot. The referee allowed one more shot for the player. Incorrect. The referee allowed one more shot to the player. Incorrect. Let's learn and understand the direct and indirect objects in details with examples. As we know, only transitive verbs have object. And we also know that some transitive verbs can take two objects, that is, a direct object and an indirect object. Nice. Look carefully at these sentences. Okay, sir. A. The students gave their teacher some flowers. B. Kitty wrote Vina a letter. C. A library lends people books. D. The explorer gave the zooer a bird that he had caught. A. The students gave what? Answer. Flowers. The students gave whom? Answer. Teacher. The answer to what gives us the direct object, flowers. The answer to whom gives us the indirect object, teacher. Or, in other words, the thing that is given flowers is called the direct object. The person to whom it is given teacher is called the indirect object. B. Kitty wrote what? Answer. Letter direct object. Kitty wrote whom a letter? Answer. Vina indirect object. Here also, the direct object is the thing written letter. The indirect object is the person to whom it was written Vina. C. A library lends what? Answer. Books indirect object. A library lends books to whom? Answer. People. Note again that the direct object is the thing lent books, and the indirect object is people, the persons to whom they are lent. Remember this, the direct object is usually a non-living thing. The indirect object is usually a person, animal or living things. However, there can be exceptions. D. The explorer gave the zooer a bird that he had caught. Here, bird, a living thing, is the direct object, and zoo, a non-living thing, the indirect object. Remember that when a verb has only one object, the terms direct object and indirect object are not used. We simply call that one object, the object. So students, here is the end of this lesson. You have learned many things today. Remember this. It's a very important lesson in English grammar.
Okay, sir. The way you teach us is very easy to understand and there is no chance to forget.
So students, I guess that you have understood the lesson properly.
Yes, sir.
I will come back with a new interesting and important lesson tomorrow. Goodbye, students.
Goodbye, sir.
See you again. So friends, this was today's video. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you liked the video, then give a like, comment, share and subscribe the channel and press the bell icon to get instant notification when new videos are uploaded. Goodbye friends. Stay well and stay healthy. Stay home and stay safe. Have a nice day. See you again. Thanks for watching the video.